The radar lock incident near Okinawa, in which Chinese fighter aircraft directed fire control radar at a Japan Air Self-Defense Force aircraft, represents more than a tactical encounter between two military platforms. It is a symptom of a broader shift in the regional security environment and a moment that reveals how fragile the balance has become in the East China Sea. Japan has long operated under the assumption that clear boundaries and predictable behavior govern the interactions between its forces and those of neighboring states. This assumption is being eroded. Fire control radar is not used for routine tracking. It is a step associated with the preparation to launch weapons. Even if no missile was intended, the action signals a willingness to escalate and to probe Japan's response mechanisms at a level that increases the risk of miscalculation. Okinawa's strategic position makes such interactions inevitable. The island chain forms the forward line of Japan's defense architecture and sits adjacent to the primary maritime route used by the People's Liberation Army Navy when transiting into the Pacific Ocean. The Nansei Shoto is also the geographic hinge between scenarios involving Taiwan and the East China Sea. Any rapid increase in military activity around Taiwan would immediately affect Japan's southwestern approaches. In this sense, Okinawa is not merely a local issue, it is a strategic fulcrum connecting the security of Japan to the stability of the entire Indo-Pacific region. To understand the seriousness of the radar lock incident, it is important to distinguish it from ordinary intercepts. Aircraft from various states frequently approach one another in international airspace. They may track each other using search radar, conduct visual identification, and maintain safe distances. Fire control radar, however, is a different category. It is designed to guide missiles toward a target and is typically used only when a platform is preparing to engage or when it seeks to send an unmistakable signal. Locking onto a foreign military aircraft is therefore interpreted not as routine behavior, but as an escalation. It increases the likelihood that the aircraft being targeted will perceive imminent danger and take defensive action, raising the chance of a collision or unintended exchange. Previous radar incidents in Northeast Asia have demonstrated how such moments can quickly strain diplomatic ties and fuel public anxiety. The motivations behind China's decision to employ fire control radar near Okinawa can be assessed through several strategic lenses. One possibility is that it was intended to test Japan's rules of engagement, observe its command and control responsiveness, and map out how quickly JASDF units escalate their posture. Another is that China sought to reinforce its claims in the East China Sea by signaling that it will not hesitate to operate assertively in contested areas. There is also a psychological dimension aimed at Okinawa itself. The island hosts a large concentration of United States military forces, and its residents are highly sensitive to the risk of conflict. A radar lock incident amplifies local fears and contributes to debates about the presence of foreign forces and the burden of hosting strategic assets. Beyond these factors, China may simply be calibrating its tactics in the context of intensifying competition with the United States. As major powers adjust their behavior, smaller but strategically important interactions such as this become part of a wider pattern of coercive signaling. Japan's response to the incident was firm but measured. Tokyo lodged a diplomatic protest while avoiding steps that could escalate the situation further. The government emphasized that it will continue to act with restraint, even as it reinforces its defensive posture. At the same time, the episode has strengthened domestic arguments for accelerating defense reforms. The creation of the Joint Operations Command, the expansion of long-range strike capabilities, and the reinforcement of the Nansei Island chain all align with the recognition that Japan must be prepared for more assertive encounters in its vicinity. The radar lock incident provides tangible evidence for policymakers who argue that Japan cannot rely solely on post-Cold War assumptions of stability. Public reaction to the incident within Japan reflects both concern and pragmatism. Nationwide surveys show that a majority of Japanese citizens support increased defense spending, acknowledging that the security environment has deteriorated. Younger generations, in particular, tend to view strengthened defense capabilities as a necessary adjustment rather than as a departure from post-war norms. However, there remains significant unease about the risks of escalation, especially in Okinawa. The island's history and its proximity to potential flashpoints have created a population more sensitive to military tension. For many residents, even minor incidents generate disproportional anxiety because they underscore the possibility that Okinawa would be on the front line of any crisis involving China. Looking toward the future, the radar lock incident illustrates several escalation pathways that Japan must manage carefully. One pathway involves the normalization of more aggressive intercept behavior. If China continues to employ fire control radar or flies closer to Japanese aircraft, JASDF may adjust its own rules of engagement, creating a cycle of reciprocal escalation. Another pathway is the increased presence of Chinese carrier groups near Okinawa, which could lead to more frequent air encounters. A third pathway involves the indirect connection to Taiwan. Any increase in pressure near Taiwan would generate military traffic through key choke points, such as the Miyako Strait, heightening the likelihood of close encounters. In each of these scenarios, the margin for error narrows. To mitigate these risks, Japan must enhance its ability to detect, assess, and respond to ambiguous situations without escalating them. Early warning systems, integrated air defense networks, and improved data sharing arrangements with the United States and Australia will be central to this effort. The Joint Operations Command will play a critical role in ensuring that information is processed rapidly and that decisions are coherent across all branches of the self-defense forces. At the same time, Japan must invest in crisis communication channels with China. Even limited military-to-military dialogue can help reduce misunderstandings during tense encounters. Clear communication does not eliminate strategic rivalry, but it can prevent accidents from spiraling into broader conflict. The radar lock event should be viewed not as an isolated incident, but as part of a structural shift in the regional security landscape. Japan is entering an era in which the threshold for dangerous encounters is lower, and the number of actors capable of rapid escalation is higher. The strategic challenge for Tokyo is to balance deterrence with stability. Reinforcing its defensive posture sends a message that Japan will not be intimidated, yet it must simultaneously avoid actions that could be interpreted as provocative. Japan's long-term security depends on this balance. By strengthening its readiness while pursuing diplomatic channels and crisis management mechanisms, Japan can reduce the likelihood of conflict even in an environment of rising military competition. Ultimately, the radar lock near Okinawa serves as a reminder that peace is not maintained by assumptions, but by preparation, vigilance, and strategic clarity. Japan's commitment to active defense is not a move toward militarization, but a sober adjustment to the realities of the Indo-Pacific. In facing these challenges, Japan seeks not confrontation, but the stability required for its citizens to live securely in a region undergoing rapid change.